Hello, everyone. How's it going? It's me, Victoria Baxter of the Saved and Single Ministry. I did not get to do the Sassy Saturday special this past weekend, but for those of you who follow the page, whether it's the ministry page or my personal page, or if you're a part of the personal group, then you would have seen that I actually did a live taping with my sister for a segment I do called Fleshly Speaking, where same thing. I still talk about issues as it pertains to relationships and dating and stuff like that, but still from a Christian aspect. So go back and check that out if you haven't. We talked about some of the reasons why Christian women are still single, and this time we touched on potential and preference. And I didn't get to fully expound on preference the way I wanted to, because when we do it there, it looked funny because, of course, from my angle, I'm actually doing it on my cell phone, just so that my followers and everyone can see it. But it's actually in a studio where he, has his cameras and stuff in front of us and all that other good stuff. So he has something separate going on. And of course, it is timed. I can't just run my mouth like I get to do with my own videos. So here we are. If you are tuning in for the first time, again, my name is Victoria Baxter. I have the Saved and Single Women's Ministry. You can visit www.thejalministry.com. You can click on Saved and Single. And again, this is what I've been called to do by God. A lot of these things, it's not my own opinions. It's things that as I, again, read the Bible, coach other women. I'm a dating coach, a relationship coach. I'm also a certified life coach. So just things as I talk to others, and just, even books, magazines, TV, along with actually reading the Bible, I'm looking at a lot of the problems and things that we have going on now, where those things stem from, and what we can actually do about it with Christ still at the center of it all. So again, to connect with me for any reasons, whether it is coaching, I do a lot of group coachings and primarily products and stuff like that, or whatever else, but I do take on handfuls of individual clients as well that need guidance or any type of coaching for whatever area of their life. With that being said, like I said, in the video, we were able to talk a lot as far as potential. I even did the Sassy Saturday special maybe about a month ago, in reference to the power of potential, and whether you should or shouldn't date off potential alone, whether you should or shouldn't stay in a relationship because someone has potential, and if you do, when is the time to walk away? If you did not catch that video, I highly recommend you doing that, as far as the potential video, and again, as far as the live video that my sister Christy and I just did this past weekend, as far as it as well. But like I said, I didn't really get to talk about preference as much as I wanted to, as I like to say, the preference problem. So maybe you and I, or I, can discuss that today, and you can tune in and listen. You've obviously tuned in thus far, so I guess you still want to hear what I have to say. Here's the thing as far as preference. There is nothing wrong with preference, and preference is, keeping in mind, that is just stating it is something that you prefer. That is all that preference pretty much is. I do not necessarily think it is a problem as far as having a preference in what you want in a mate, in what you want in your boyfriend, your future husband, your marriage, all that other good stuff. It is good to have some type of preference in mind. The question and the issue actually at hand is, the things that you're preferring, are they things that truly matter, or are they superficial things? And that's where you have to kind of evaluate things sometimes. I've had women who come to me and they want to talk about online dating. Is that okay from a Christian standpoint? Is there anything wrong with that? I always say, if you're going to do online dating, what you have to do is keep in mind, you have to walk into it, and you have to have an open mind, but low expectations. So people are, why would she say have low expectations? And, what type of woman doesn't expect much, whatever else? What I mean by the low expectations part, especially as it pertains to online dating, or even going on a date in general, low expectations as in don't go expecting too much, because it might not work out the way you want it to work out. When I was actually doing a lot of online dating, a lot, and I know that honestly and truly, I know for a fact that is also, I had to go even through that season, even to be where I am right now, because I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes. I interacted with a lot of men. I see so many different things. I see why I made some of the choices and decisions that I did as well. So even that season, it played a crucial part into my calling, my purpose this season, and everything. When I did online dating, I was doing it because I wanted to meet somebody. But I was doing it at a point where I desperately wanted to meet somebody, where being in a relationship, falling in love, eventually getting married, all those things really, really mattered to me. So I was going into it and I had my hopes high. I had my expectations too high. I was building these fantasies in my mind based on like one conversation or a couple of conversations, or because they were continuously reaching out to me, communicating with me, breadcrumbing me. Though that's another term that we're now dealing with when it pertains to dating in 2018. Y'all, I'm excited. I have something big coming in 2019 as far as dating and everything like that is concerned. But just to give you a little whatever as far as that's concerned, breadcrumbing is when you have somebody who, right when they think they might be getting ready to lose you or something like that, they're going to throw you a little bit of breadcrumbs just to keep you interested. Just like a little duck. Let me throw a little breadcrumb and I'm going to keep on walking. I'm going to turn my back to the duck and the duck is going to do what? They're going to keep following me. Even if that distance gets a little bit whatever, at some point I'm going to do what? I kind of like the duck, but I know the duck can't come home with me. But I like the attention from the ducks, and I'm going to turn around. I'm going to throw another piece of bread. That's what breadcrumbing is. And what it happens with men, especially, because what they will do is they know sometimes they're not trying to stick with you or trying to be with you, or they're not quite sure whatever else. So they just want to toss a few breadcrumbs. Every so often, you get that, hey, big head text. You get that good morning, beautiful text. Hey, stranger text. Sometimes they'll slide in your DMs. They're sending, little emojis, little kissy face emojis, all this other good stuff to make sure that they have not completely lost you. And that was something that, again, even with online dating especially, it was happening. And I would have guys who, I was like, oh, they haven't forgot about me. Oh, they're still talking to me. Oh, they're still reaching out to me. And sometimes, and even, just based off these conversations, because that is when you're not in front of somebody. You don't see how they're really acting and behaving, and they can tell you and speak and write all the things that actually make you happy and the things that you actually want to hear. Y'all, I have never been catfished. I love the show. I see how it happens. I see how people end up getting catfished, because sometimes just from carrying on a conversation, you can end up catching feelings if you're not careful. I see how some people can fall in love, but like I've said before, falling in love, loving, all those things are choices and decisions. So if you allow yourself to get there, you made that choice to do all of those things. But anyway, me with online dating, I would catch feelings and the whole nine. And because I was expecting a lot, because I really, really wanted to meet somebody. And I was doing it at a point where I was desperately waiting, as I always talk about a lot. I was not happy being single. I had no contentment at all being single, none whatsoever. And so with that, I was find myself getting very disappointed and very upset anytime any of those situations that, when I was dating men and when I was doing the online dating, when those things did not work out, I was upset and I was frustrated. So I just wanted to say that is why I tell people to have low expectations when you're going to do online dating. Don't go into it thinking, oh, this guy is texting or messaging me or whatever else all the time. He must really like me, because you have to keep in mind the same way you're on there trying to find somebody. There are men on there that are trying to find somebody, and it might be trying to find someone to sleep with, casually date, enter into a committed relationship with, marry, whatever. Sometimes you really don't know people's intentions. I'll have to do something later as far as online dating, because that's another thing in and of itself. So coming off of expectations and going into preference, I don't want anyone to miss what I'm saying, because again, I see that expectations, some people hear that word and they thought I was crazy for saying have low expectations. It's exactly what it says. What do you expect? So you can't go expecting that the first person that tells you you're beautiful, oh, now time for me to deactivate this account. This is exactly who I was looking for. With preference, the problem with preference is that sometimes people have superficial superficial preferences. One thing that we talked about this past weekend, and I think I'm actually going to do it this weekend for the actual Sassy Saturday special, is looking at potential, preference, and standards, because those are three different things. But I'm going to focus and stick with preference. Some of the things that for preference, and especially some of those superficial things, and I say superficial because if you're truly wanting to meet somebody, to get married, to have a joyous, beautiful marriage with Christ at the center, then all the preferences and the superficial preferences have to go out the window. Because if you're determined that he has to be a certain height, he has to be a certain complexion, his bank account has to, be at a certain amount, his credit score has to be whatever. There are certain things, what his car has to be like, how many, whatever else. The problem with preference is that preference is holding a lot of people back, and preference is keeping a lot of people single because of the things that we are desiring. Now, even as I talked about potential, what I was saying is that dating a person based off potential alone can be a dangerous thing. I've seen some people who stuck it out and they waited because they saw the potential, and now they are in awesome marriages and everything is, going great. And I mean, of course, all marriages have issues and flaws and stuff like that, but it's going great for them. They're truly happy. They're blessed, and, they got the house and the white picket fence and the 2-car garage and the American dream. All of that is good. Why? Because they saw potential and they were patient. And there's nothing wrong with that. Then I see a lot of people who are walking around sad, dejected, depressed, and whatever else. Why? Because they're in these relationships and they've been strung along all this time. Why? Because they saw the potential in somebody and that person doesn't even see the potential in themselves. And so people are walking in here and they're wasting time because potential, but that potential has not manifested yet. That's why you have to be careful when it comes to potential, because potential is saying it has the ability to become something else. It has the ability to actually manifest into something, but you have to know when to walk away. At what point do you say it's not happening? Preference. If you're saying, I prefer someone who's 6 foot tall, I prefer someone who's dark skinned, I prefer he not have any kids, I prefer this, I prefer that, whatever else. I prefer that he has at least this much money in his bank account. I'm trying to make sure that I'm not accumulating his debt if that's going to be my husband. I prefer that his credit score is whatever, all these other different things. That's fine. I tell people be careful with that. And of course, every time I tell people that, one of the main scriptures that I get from women is Psalm 37:4. Well, God says that he will give me the desires of my heart as long as I delight in him. Well, here's the thing. The more that you delight in God, the more your desires and your prayers start to line up with what he wants. It's not saying, oh, just because you desire something, you're going to get it. That's not what that scripture means. A person who delights in the Lord, you are seeking God first. Your first thought is always him. You're always thinking about him. You're always thinking about the kingdom. You're always thinking about living righteously and whatever else. That kind of person only has but so many. They only have a certain type of desire. Their desires fall into a certain holy box. So if you're not delighting in God, that means you don't have a certain set of desires. And if you don't have a certain set of desires, God is not about to give you those desires. But that is what women always say to me when I tell them your preferences, not pros and cons, but your list about what are red flags, what are absolute no's, what are thumbs up. Let's examine those things, and you have to see what's important. You can prefer that somebody has a 700 and something credit score. There's nothing wrong with having that preference. Keep in mind, credit scores change every day, B. Those things go back and forth, and you can get one little ding on your report that can end up shooting your score all the way up or knocking your score all the way down. You can prefer that somebody has a certain amount of money in that bank account. Anything can happen. You don't know what type of life they had before. You don't. There's going to be some type of wage garnishment, something where the IRS is coming, where their assets are going to be frozen, where something, crazy expensive can come up. And the moment that you say, I do, the next day, he's now got to drain his bank account to take care of whatever. You don't know what's going to happen. You can prefer that he be 6 foot tall, or he looks a certain way. We know that looks can change. First of all, now I'm not speaking anything over anyone, but things can happen that can cause looks to even change. But again, now if looks are important, there is nothing wrong with that either. But if you're desiring, if he has to have a certain kind of job, that job can end at any given moment. That's where we have to be careful with preferences, because the things that you prefer, the things that I hear a lot of women say they prefer, are often things that can change just like that. Standards, we'll talk about that this coming weekend, because standards, like I said, those are like the duh things, like duh, he should be educated, duh, he should be, healthy, duh, he should be ambitious, whatever else. I'm not talking about standards, and I'm not even talking about potential. Preference. What are the things that you prefer a man has before you will actually enter into a committed relationship with him, accept an engagement ring from him, and or actually sign a marriage license with him on? Like, what are your preferences, and examine to figure out why those things matter. Do you check those boxes? And how are you going to react if something happens at any given moment with one of those things that you prefer? Because life happens. Because the same way that you don't see potential in somebody and you don't want to be bothered because they're talking about, oh, I'm just waiting for this record deal to come through, or oh, I'm just waiting any moment now I'm about to, get this, and this is going to happen, and oh, any minute now I'm going to get that car and I'm not going to be at the bus stop anymore. And you're sitting there thinking, man, please, you don't have no potential. I wonder how long you've been living this life and it ain't happened for you yet, and it's probably not going to happen. Nope, not my husband. Next. And then that very next day, he could end up getting that phone call that could change his entire life. He could end up getting that record deal. He could end up getting that contract. He can end up that multi-million-dollar contract that for several thousand, couple of $100,000, like I said, multi-million, whatever the case might be. And just like that, boom, maybe he was working on his credit, and now he actually has the credit score in order to get that house, in order to get that car, whatever. So sometimes this is why our preference is a problem, because you don't know how quickly things can change. Before I close out, let me say this. I'm taking another course right now to help me as far as the relationship coaching aspect of things, because I don't like to just give people false information. Not trying to be mean, but I see that there are too many people that are doing that right now on social media. Everybody is a prophet. Everybody is a coach. Everybody just has been enlightened, and that's cool. Do whatever you want to do. I like to give accurate information, and I like to not just give my opinions, because anyone can give an opinion. I don't have time for that. I'm trying to lead people in the right direction. So I'm right now going through a relationship course to actually help me as it pertains to relationship coaching and relationship workshops and dating, coaching people that are dating and things like that. And one thing that we're actually talking about right now is the halo effect. Of course, angels, they have halos and all of the good stuff. So what happens with the halo effect is, a lot of times, and this goes into preference, a lot of times you have some people that they have that number one thing that it's their number one preference, the thing that means the most to them. As long as he's this, that's all that matters. As long as his credit score is here, we're good. As long as he believes in God, we're good. As long as he has at least $50,000 in the bank account, that's good. Nothing else matters. And the halo effect is when you focus so greatly on that one, maybe two, three max. But typically it's one, maybe two things that you're like, that really good thing, or those really good things. And you focus so greatly on that because it's that much important to you. And it causes you, it ends up overshadowing all the bad things about that person. This is how a lot of women, some, not all. Now I'm going to tread lightly here. This is how some women end up staying in abusive relationships. This is how some are still domestic violence victims. Because even though they get abused, and even not even just physical abuse, even if they get verbally abused, emotionally abused, whatever, a lot of them will end up staying because of what the man does after he's abused them. Oh, but he bought me flower, and he knows this is my favorite kind of flower. or because he made love to me, and every time it's like after this happens, we make, and it's like nothing else matters. Well, I know that he does this and he says that, but you don't see the way he does this. You don't see the way he rubs my face to tell me he's sorry. You don't see the way he provides for the house. You don't see the way he takes care of all the bills and I don't have to work. You don't see the way that he takes care of these kids and these kids love him and he's never mean to them and he never puts his hands on them. That's the halo effect. Sometimes we'll end up overlooking all the bad things, all because of that one or two things that they do very, very well. And that's a problem. And even with some of those things that I just mentioned, I know they might sound foolish to some of you, but if you've never been there, you wouldn't get it. Because again, if you look at the 5 love languages, there are certain things that people, they thrive on when it comes to love and affection and attention and devotion. So that is why some people, they don't care if they're being verbally abused, because as long as their financial needs are getting met, as long as he might be doing those things, but then he's turning around and buying a car. He's turning around and buying an expensive gift, because some people, their love language is gifts given. Okay, yeah, he might end up emotionally abusing someone every day, but then every day that man and woman, they get in bed and they make passionate love to each other. Oh, and I use that loosely, passionate and love. But they end up making love together. But to that woman, her love language might be affection and touch. I can't think of the actual physical touch. That's what it is. So that's her love language. And if she doesn't really care about the words, because the only thing well, every time he talks to me like that, he shows me love later on. Now, the opposite thing with the halo effect is, yeah, sometimes those preferences, those things that we have to have and those things that we desire, as long as they do that, we don't care about the bad things. But then the flip side is with the halo effect, if you have superficial preferences, sometimes the things that one thing that you absolutely cannot stand and that you hate that might be superficial can end up overshadowing all the good about this person. Now, let me say this again. Everyone is entitled to their own preference. I'm not telling you to change your preferences. Let me just say that first of all. There's nothing wrong with having preferences. It can, however, cause you to be single that much longer. Now, I'm not saying you should be in a rush to get married or to be in. Some people are saying, I will wait until I'm 70 if that means he's going to come packaged exactly the way I want. There's nothing wrong with that. So let me be clear as far as that. Now, I know that some women are just like, no, I absolutely will not date a man that has kids at all, period. That's fine. Halo effect. Because of that one bad thing, which again, it's not a bad thing, it just falls under a superficial preference. You can end up missing out on a great man who can check every single thing else off your box. Because you believe in what the Bible says about marriage, that a man is the provider, the protector, and whatever else, and you're sick of working, and you just want to be able to stay home and be Susie homemaker and take care of your kids and have dinners ready for him and everything else. And this man might want all of those same exact things. But all because he has one kid. It's not even a trifling baby mama. But all because he has one kid, one baby mama. One child's mother, sorry. You don't want to give him a chance. And you are well within your right to feel that way. I'm not trying to change your mind. But that's the halo effect. Or no, I will absolutely not date a man if he has a criminal record, period. You're well within your right. He could have made a stupid mistake 20 years ago. That's just there. But again, he checks everything else off your box. He can provide. He loves God. He loves kids. He doesn't care if a woman comes with kids. He wants a woman who will either go to work if she wants to or stay home and take care of the house because he can afford it, so it doesn't matter to him. But all because of your preference. So think about the halo effect. Think about things. I say, as always, keep an open mind But this is an online dating, so I don't have to say low expectations. Keep an open mind. Look at your preferences. And we're going to go on a journey this coming weekend. Again, you're going to have your notebooks out for this one, because we're going to look over the standards and the potential and the preferences, because you might realize that something that you have in one column really should be in another column. And there are some columns that just really don't matter. Some that can be done away with. Some they should be done away with, because again, things can change in an instant. So just think about your preferences and evaluate. And again, a lot of us, even if we don't have a physical list, a lot of us have some type of list in our head. Because if somebody was to come to you and say right now, what do you look for in a man? Most of us can rattle off, well, as long as they this, I'm good. That's a list. Can I just say that I know some people who have, like I was saying a couple of minutes ago, as long as he loves God, that's all that matters. I'm cool with that. As long as he goes to church every Sunday, I'm cool with that. Be mindful of that. Because a lot of women are saying, a lot of women are now doing the whole, I want a godly man. I've changed. I'm not the same. I'm a godly woman. I want a godly man. More than likely, I'm going to meet my man in church. Well, the same way women talk, men talk. And now more men are talking, and they're realizing that that's what women are talking about. And a lot of men are now all of a sudden going to church, and they can't even tell you what the message was about. Why? Because they're scouring and they're looking around trying to figure out where those desperate women at that's looking for a man in church. They're just looking for somebody to pray on. I know we were talking about love bombing a little bit ago. They're looking for someone to love bomb. They're just looking to whatever. They don't care about the message. They probably don't even realize the name of the church. They just drive and it's like, oh, a church. Let's go. Let's see what female is in there. But some of these men in the church are not godly. And some of these men in the church now, however, there are some men in the church, they can tell you every single Bible scripture. They have read the Bible front to back 1,000,000 times. There is any problem that you can mention, they got a scripture for it. They got a word for it. They will hold hands. They will pray for you. They will pray with you. They know Jesus in and out, all of that other good stuff. But that's about the extent of it. Their actions don't show it. The fruits of the Spirit that Galatians 5 talks about, none of that is going on inside of there. You will know them by their fruits. That's what the Bible says. That's what the Word says. And that applies to everybody. We will know people by the fruits they display. Remember, even Satan knew the Word of God. Satan knows the Bible. So just because somebody appears to be godly, it doesn't mean that they are. And a lot of women who prefer a godly man, I'm not even about to go all this deep. I'm about to get off of here. You know them by their fruits. Because some men, they can appear godly. And they can know the word. And all this other good stuff. But their actions will tell something completely different. And sometimes you thinking you're falling in love with somebody that was sent by God, when that's nothing but a trap from the enemy. And we get so hell-bent on where the man needs to be, and he better be this, and he better know the Bible and read the Bible, and he better be able to teach me, and we can go to church. I need to know that he is on fire for God and he goes to church every Sunday and whatever else. Again, if that is your preference, there's nothing wrong with that. But I know so many men who are in the church that are not in the church. I know so many godly men who don't have not one godly fruit about them. I know so many men, just be careful. That's all I can say, seriously. But then I know some great men who know God. They love God and they want to get to know God more. They just don't know where to start. That could be your role. Because everybody's sitting there saying, I want a godly man and a godly husband. What if you know the word and it's up to you to teach him and to help him? Because that is what helpmate is all about. Don't make me get started on that all over again. But it is our job to encourage and to help them spiritually. Okay, so people have been asking me also about the whole John Gray and his wife and covering and whatever else. As I've said, as far as that whole thing is concerned, we are to cover our husbands. Now, I'm not going to say she made a mistake, but she married a man who was broken. That's what happens when you allow yourself to be connected to a broken person. Perhaps she knew that, but she knew the God that she served, and she knew the power of prayer, so she had no problem with that. And okay, so she covered him as he gave birth to his purpose and everything else. That's their business. That don't have nothing to do with nobody. What I need people to understand, that is your role as a wife and as a woman of God, is to cover him. And for everyone who's sitting there saying, again, he has to be godly and all this other good stuff, continue to read the Bible. Just continue to read the Bible and look at a lot of these marriages and look at the roles of a wife. He is supposed to love God and be submitted to God. But it definitely talks about the woman a lot of times being the spiritual head, and to want the one to pray for him and to cover him and all those other different things. So you can end up missing out again, all because of your preference that he has to be God. Oh, nope, he don't even go to church. That ain't my husband. But here it is. This man was maybe praying, God, I want to get to know you more. And you could have been the answer to his prayer. Child. Anyway, there are some men out there who they want to know. They want to know the Bible. They want to know God. Maybe they don't know where to start. Come on. And hopefully no men are watching this, but y'all know sometimes we got to teach them. We got to help them out a little bit. So why do we expect them to have everything else? Like they got to come with all this other different stuff. Well, what if that's the one area that they're lacking, but that's your role to fulfill? I know some people right now in some great marriages, and I'm looking at some people where their husbands are just now starting to come around to Christ. And it's shocking because some of these women, you would think they would be one of those, nope, my husband's got to be this, that, and on fire for Christ. He better know the Bible frontwards and backwards, and in Chinese and Spanish and whatever else. But they were like, no, he knew God. He loved God. He respects the God in me. And that was enough. The Bible talks about how women who are spiritually grounded, how they can end up doing something in their husbands that are either unbelievers or maybe a little bit lukewarm or whatever else. Just examine your preferences, and we're going to leave that alone because I'm going to keep on going. But this weekend, we're going to continue on with preferences, potential, standards, and all of that other good stuff. So God bless you all. To connect with me and to learn more about this ministry, visit www.thejalministry.com. You can click on Saved and Single. As far as the blog and all that other good stuff, you can click on HSM series and you'll see more information as far as me with coaching and relationship coaching and dating coaching, and even some of the other coachings and stuff that I've already done that you can actually enroll in, subscribe to, or purchase. God bless, and I will see you all later. You all have a good one. Bye-bye.